This truck is currently stuck on AC and heat only coming out one portion of the vents. Turning that knob does nothing. One possible solution is to replace this vent mode door actuator. Another possible solution that I'll get into a little bit later is the motherboard. So this guy is located above the throttle, just up to the right, and connected with 3 screws. There's 2 on the bottom there, and then 1 up there, a little bit tucked away. This is what it should look like when you move it, but when I turn the dial, that is not happening. So I'm going to remove these screws. Again, 1 on the bottom here, 1 in the back to the left, and 1 up above, just using a Phillips screwdriver. And then you can remove this door actuator. I'm going to turn it around here and test it in the same view as that dial so that you can see this arm is not moving and functioning. Down in the bottom left corner of your screen, when I turn this dial, that arm should move, and it's not. If you're wondering which arm I'm talking about, it's this one right here in red. See that guy? Yeah. So we're going to disconnect it and order a new one, or go pick it up. Now on to diagnosing the other one. So first, chalk your tires, be safe. I'm going to remove the cover and then set the transmission out of the way a little bit so that I have access to remove these pins on either side so that I can pull off this cover plate. First you got to remove the ashtray, set it off to the side, and then you can pop this guy free. Pull it out a little bit and disconnect the cigarette lighter power sources. Once those are disconnected, you can move this out of the way. Then I'm going to remove the knobs, and with a small screwdriver, remove the faceplate. That pops right off, and there's 3 screws that you have to remove in order to then be able to remove this next panel. 1 here, 1 up there, and 1 over here. With those removed, you can now pull like a monkey on it really hard and eventually get this thing to disconnect. Be careful not to break the plastic clips that are holding it on. Once you get it pulled off, you can set it to the side, and then we can remove these 3 screws which are holding our control board here. They are still connected with a couple of wire harnesses on the back. So again, with a small screwdriver, I'm going to pop this guy off on the left. That one came off pretty easy, but the one on the right is going to give me quite a bit of trouble. For your sake, I'll just fast forward through this and get it pulled off a little quicker. So pop, off it goes, and now we can pull this module out and try to assess whether or not it's damaged. Remove the 3 screws on the back, and through a little bit of a trapeze act, you got to pinch to remove the clips on one side while pulling to remove the clip on this far right side. So it's a bit of a balancing act. Try to get that one side to stay unclipped while you pinch and pull and fight it back and forth, and eventually you will be able to get one side to disconnect and then be able to pull off the other side as well. You can leave it connected right here. I pulled it off for the sake of being able to show you an up close of the solder connections. So I pulled this off. It's just held on by friction. And if you look at these solder connections, they all look like they're in pretty good order. So I'm going to assume this is not my problem, and I'll move back into reconnecting everything in reverse order from how I disconnected it. So we'll put those guys back in and screw this module back into place, making sure that it fits exactly where it's supposed to. There are some guides there that you got to line up, and then you can screw it in. Now we can move on to putting the cover back on. That just clips into place. On the back there are clips, and you got to feel all the way around it to make sure that each one of those engages. Once that's on, you can re-secure it by adding the screws. There are 3 again, left, right, and down below. Add your faceplate back into position, make sure it's secure, just push it into place, and then we'll add this plastic. And remember to reconnect your cigarette lighter power sources and slam the ashtray in there really hard, pull it out really hard, make sure it's not broken. If it is, try to break it in the process. Why not? Reconnect your knobs in the same orientation that you removed them from. And sometimes when you're making videos, it's really helpful to review that footage to see what that was. So maybe take pictures along the way. And now we're gonna reinstall those clips, throw it back into park, and add the cover for that. A few days later, I was able to receive the part. So now we're gonna go back into installing this vent mode door actuator. So for the initial test, we'll just reconnect it, play with our dial, and see if this little guy is turning. Hey, look, the arm is actually moving. So we now are good to reinstall it. And when we do so, don't lose your screws. I taped mine together and labeled them because it was a few days later. So that's a trick. Put your screws back on and make sure that the arm is actually engaged in the right place. This is what it should look like once you reinstall it. It's working. Hallelujah. And if you got kids like me, look around the truck. You can find a piece of garbage just to throw it in front of the vents and show that, hey, it's actually working and blowing out air. It was always blowing out in my face in the heat, which was great. So never did defrost. Here I'm going to show you that, with a piece of garbage, it's doing defrost, because you probably don't believe me, but it is. So problem solved, and on to the next one. Have a great one.